Satang Prasanga.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to today's session. How are you doing? I pray that all is well with you and your families at this time. So we're continuing today with the second part of this letter to Upendra Prabhu. Was very interesting yesterday, and today it's revealing another philosophical point. So yesterday he was asking about the individual soul and the mind and will. So today is asking another philosophical point, and Prabhupada is also explaining this very wonderfully. So we catch the letter at this paragraph where it says, the example of Narada Ji, that when he realized Krishna in his previous life. So this is Prabhupada is explaining here about Narad. So this is in the 5th chapter of the 1st canto, where we get the history of Narada, how he became, how he had the opportunity to serve the Bhakti Vedantas. So Prabhupada is explaining this point here, that yes, his fortune in bhakti was created by those 4 Bhakti Vedantas who came and visited. I've heard some say that it was the 4 Kumaras who actually came in guise, but I've never read any praman on it. I heard it once in a class in Vrindavan, that those Bhakti Vedantas, who were they? But Prabhupada is making the point that how did Narada then even get the qualification to meet the Bhakti Vedantas? Well, one may say, well, it was due to his mother. His mother gave him the opportunity to serve them, and then they gave him the opportunity to take some Mahaprasad from them. But surely his life before that had to also be very pious. Otherwise, how is it that he came to be in that environment? You know, to be born by that person, that lady, and then to be at that time there when they are there. All those timings, who created that? So that's why Prabhupada is saying that when you understand, or you're trying to seek and understand the pure devotee, it's not so easy. Because there's so many other factors involved in that. So Prabhupada is explaining here about Narad and his life and next life. So he's saying if you're trying to understand Narada's life and his next life, then he goes on to say, there is no difference. So he's saying there is no difference between what his current life at that moment and the next life. Why? Because he was already in that perfected state. So Prabhupada is explaining this now. In the coconut skin, when it is dried up, the fruit within the covering of the coconut is hard. And if the coconut is shaken, it is found that the coconut fruit is moving within, because it has dried up and broken away from the inner walls of the coconut skin. So it has nothing to do with the outer skin, even though it appears that he is within that skin. So Prabhupada is giving the example, which is commonly given in India, is that of the coconut fruit. There are different reasons why that particular fruit is offered as a famous offering to most of the deities. When they worship, they offer coconut. One of the practical reasons is that the water within the fruit is the most pure water. Why? Because it's not touched by anything outside. So if you want to offer, I'm just remembering in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the famous story of Raghava Pandit. And he had his own coconut plantation. He had his own access to beautiful coconut trees. But he would get the best coconut tree fruit from a distance away. And he would make sure that they put in water to be cool. You know how hot it gets right now in the rainy season, and we had a huge thunderstorm last night and yesterday. One of those thunder was so loud, it actually, I actually became fearful. It's like, wow, can nature be so powerful? It was tremendous thundering yesterday. So it gets very hot here in summer. So Raghava he would put it in water to keep it cool, and then the water inside the coconut would get cool. The dabs, coconut dabs, they call that here. But that's the green coconut. Prabhupada is talking about the ripe coconut. But the point is, he would offer Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the best coconuts. And even one day that his servant brought in these coconuts, but it touched the doorway. And he said, no, discard them. He said, but we can just wash it. No, we can't offer like that to Lord Chaitanya. It must be the best and most pristine. This is the standard of offering that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees offer him with. So coconuts is famous here. I'm even remembering there's one crazy temple in India I've seen where they break the coconuts on the person's head. They actually crack the coconut on the forehead of the person as an offering, and that is super dangerous. And sometimes they test people's faith that way. Do you have faith that your head is strong enough to crack a coconut? Wow, crazy. When people are not following scriptural injunctions, they just create their own way, and it can cause such harm to people. So just like that, coconuts are offered. So Prabhupada is giving the example here that coconuts are inside, when it's green, then that in here in Mayapur we've got many coconut trees. Of course now because of the lockdown it's different. But inside that coconut is called malai. You ask them, malai coconut. Babuji, malai coconut like bear. I want that one, which is the Malai one. It's got that milk, coconut milk it's called. So when that hardens, then it comes to what Prabhupada is talking about. Or what we famously see in South Africa also, those coconuts with the thick white flesh on the inside. But the next level from that, when that hardens, it actually detaches from the skin of the coconut. So then you hear it like a ball inside the shell. You can shake it. So Prabhupada is talking about that and is giving that example. But let's see what is he explaining by that. Similarly, when one is purely in Krishna consciousness, it may appear that he is within the material existence, but actually he has nothing to do with it. Prabhupada is explaining this point from, I think it's Nectar of Devotion that describes this. E hasya haridasya kamana manasa gira nikila shyopi vastatu jivan mukta sa uchyate. So it's saying that the liberated soul, even in this lifetime, he can be liberated and still practicing devotional service. Here. So he's completely ready to go back, but he's still here and continuing the devotional service. Because what is the difference in what he's doing here and what he will do in the spiritual world? It's the same thing. He will offer Krishna with full devotion. So the proximity, the jurisdiction is different, but the consciousness is the same. So Prabhupada is making that point here. He says, he is dried up like the coconut fruit, and that process of drying up is forgetting all sense gratification. So Prabhupada is saying here, what is that process of drying up? It's that I am in the center. I gratify my senses. The pure devotee is yesterday's part of the letter was asking about will, and how the pure devotee aligns his will with Krishna. Therefore, whatever he does and acts is completely in synergy with Krishna directly. And here today, Prabhupada is explaining that point further, that this dried coconut is just like that the devotee is here within this material world, is here within the shell of the coconut, but he is not affected by anything. Because he is not doing any sense gratification. He is simply serving Krishna. He does enjoy his senses. Sevan mukti jivado swayam eva swarattada. He does seva to the senses, but it's done in connection to Krishna. So nothing separate from Krishna, everything in connection with Krishna. And that's the way the whole existence is running. Everything is running in connection with the will of God. But only here, the living entity, especially the human being, completely wants to do his own thing and messes the whole thing up. Prabhupada explains further. And executing Krishna consciousness full time. So this is it. His life, it's not a practice anymore. See, we start off practicing Krishna consciousness, we end up living Krishna consciousness. It has to become a lifestyle, just like anything. When it becomes a lifestyle, it's not a secondary activity anymore. It's not extracurricular. It is directly the way you live your life, and that's the way God has ordained human beings to live. So when that happens, that is perfection. So Prabhupada is going on to say here, so when one is purely in Krishna consciousness, his present life and his future life are identical. So what will be the difference with what you're doing now and what you'll be doing in the spiritual world? Same thing, serving Krishna with a full heart. Maybe the service may change slightly, but service is the same. It's absolute. So Prabhupada is saying it's identical. So he goes on to say, hope you are well, your ever well-wisher A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So it's a bit of a philosophical letter, but it's a beautiful point that if we engaging in devotional service, everything is auspicious now and everything will be auspicious in the future. Actually, there is no separateness. We just continue what we're doing now, we continue doing that day. So it's a very glorious, auspicious situation. So, very beautiful point. I hope you enjoyed the class today. May you have a good day and we'll catch you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.